What's Candy's major, do you think? She probably says it at some point, but I'm gonna headcanon her as economics.
Huh?
Actually, yeah, Ida Candy, economics major. Quote me on that. Hi, it's Astro, and I am wearing my Wonder Woman glasses because I'm going to do something I've never done before. Talk about Wonder Woman because I can do hard things. I am here because I want to talk about specifically the Holiday Girls. If you're a Wonder Woman fan, you are probably familiar with the Holiday Girls, and if you're not familiar with them, you definitely know about Ida Candy. Ida Candy is Wonder Woman's best friend, her female that she has. Female. Jesus, Astro. The woman that she has here on Earth. She is kind of her eyes and feminine perspective on man's world, giving Diana advice and filling in the gaps of kind of like feminine culture and stuff like that that Diana, who grew up on the Themyscira, maybe would not understand about man's world. Kick it over me calling her a female. That's a really rough start. I'm really sorry, everybody. Wow. The Holiday Girls are Ida Candy's sorority group that she is a president of because girl boss. And it's also one of those things that's like, if I was in a dastardly scenario, if I was in like life or death scenario, I think I also would call the 5 sorority girls that I have in my phone. There's just, I don't know, I'd feel safe with them. They'd fix my problems and we'd go out and get a drink after. Slay. I want to talk though about William Marston's kind of inspiration for the Holiday Girls specifically. I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive here. I'm going to talk to you about the first introduction of the Holiday Girls, which is in Sensation Comics issue 2. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about why Marston put these college girls into his writing and the real life, you know, muses for the Holiday Girls, dear God. And then we will wrap it all up by talking about beloved issue 43 of the Sensation Comics, which is such a ride. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but like you can only guess like how a professor, like a psychology professor, knows anything about a sorority girls ritual. It's as bad as you think it is, like absolutely. Buckle up. Okay, so the Holiday Girls are first introduced in Sensation Comic number 2, and let's walk through this comic a little bit and all appreciate the 1940s writing, that good old golden age writing. Trevor is still injured from the previous rendezvous. Because he is injured, Diana is undercover as a nurse to take care of them, and they are both straight up kidnapped by Gestapo agents. Little too on the nose for real world happenings in this country, so I don't even have a joke for it. Fuck off. The two are kidnapped, and Diana is saying these men must be spies, like as they're tying her up, which. My smart girl, I see you. Genius. So, who is behind this other than a Dr. Poison? And like, Jesus Christ, that's what Dr. Poison looked like? It looks like doctors eating up some of the supply. Like this is scary depiction, girl boss, but whatever. Dr. Poison injects a truth serum into Steve Trevor, but Diana switches it last minute for a saline, and Steve just starts like lying. Myths, truths. You're not gonna get any American secrets out of Mr. I almost called him Steve Rogers. I wish I was talking about Steve Rogers right now, low key. Oh. There's also this panel where Diana is like literally hog tied down, and she escapes and breaks her chains, obviously, because that's the MO. And she wishes that it was like chains, like she broke free of her rope, excuse me, and she wishes it was like chains because that would have been like more fun to break. She's so silly. I love her. She changes into Wonder Woman and quickly realizes she can't go after Dr. Poison directly without like like maybe the threat of Steve getting hurt. Cuz we can't hurt Steve. We can't hurt Steve Trevor boy. So, Diana goes to visit Ida Candy because while disguised as Nurse Diana, Diana helped out Ida. Diana doesn't recognize her at first because she's gained some weight, because the whole bit with Ida Candy is that she likes candy. So when she got her appendix removed in the hospital, she could just eat whatever she wanted. Whatever. Diana doesn't care, actually. She's just like, can you help me? I need 100 girls. Get a little closer to me. 100 girls, Diana asks for. What, girl boss? 100 girls? What do you need 100 girls for? Whatever. Ida's like, yeah, I got 100 girls. She got a big ass chapter, apparently. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of dues. That's a lot of money we're putting in for dues. I just realized I had my headphones on, but they're not actually connected to anything. So I've been wearing them for the beginning of this video for nothing. 100 girls! Whatever. Diana's like, I need 100, and she personally goes through and vets all of these girls of like, prettiest and strongest. They have to be pretty, but they have to be strong. And you will see why right now. Because Diana has these girls dressed up, 100 of them, dressed up as a marching band. And this is so the Gestapo agents could see all these women and be like, oh my God, score. But my thing is, I don't know if it's just because I don't have a penis, but if I saw 100 people, like, of anything, women or men, coming towards me specifically, I'd fear for my life. And I think mutiny was upon me. But whatever. These men are so excited that these girls are here. Good for them. They're 100 is so OD, but I don't know. I guess Dr. Poison had a lot of Gestapo agents under her roster. Anyway, the girls do their thing and distract the agents by being like, oh my God, we should dance. And Wonder Woman and some other girls go to free Steve Trevor. And when that's all said and done, and Steve Trevor is like so nicely wrapped in Diana's arms, oh my gosh, Diana is like, okay, girls, like, go get your man. And these girls whip out handcuffs and handcuff their dance partner. Honestly, hilarious scenario, hilarious situation. So that is the first introduction we get to the Holliday girls. I mean, these are girls that Diana recruited and did a pretty good job of stopping agents, even though they're like, what, probably 19, 20-year-olds? What I want to focus on, though, is not even anything that I just talked about. Excuse me. What I want to focus on, though, is the last panel of this issue, where Ida Candy, wielding a wooden stick, is spanking Dr. Poison. It's a little hard to tell, but the motion lines follow like a little bit behind Ida's head to the tail end of Dr. Poison's dress. And she's like, eek, eek, like, oh, have mercy. And Ida says, I gotta lock you up, baby, and get myself some chocolate dreams. Period. And like, okay, a weird scene. Kind of like what's going on here scene, but a throwaway, right? Like the imagery of a woman being spanked, specifically by Ida Candy, is just like one of those throwaway things that we do. Silly, funny gag, right? And it's like, okay, Ida Candy is spanking this woman and calling her baby. But that's just like 1940s weirdness, right? So William Marston witnessed a sorority hazing ritual. We're jumping into this. I'm not even going to try to like humble your landing in any sort of way. We're getting into this right now. William Marston witnessed a sorority ritual, like a hazing ritual. Basically, in my Bible, which is The Secrets of Wonder Woman by Jill Lepore, it talks about Marston's time in Tufts University and the subsequent meeting of like an undergraduate senior who did some lab work for Marston, and they worked very closely, and that later becomes his life partner alongside his wife, this undergraduate senior that he meets. Please stick with me. Marston's work during this time primarily revolved around how women and men operate differently on a psychological level. That is work that he began in American University and then, continued at Tufts University. His claim was that women were more emotional than men and had a wider range of fluctuating emotions, and that women were more likely to experience anger. For this, Lepore writes on page 130, he and Holloway had conducted blood pressure tests on 10 men and 10 women. They tried to get them upset, and then they tried to arouse them. End quote. Some real good experimentation you got there, Marston. May we have some more, sir. And it's like, even like the thing regarding like women were quick to anger, it's like, oh wow, an oppressed group of society is quick to anger with your bullshit questions. I'm so shocked, Marston. Anyway, he continued this work at Tufts University with a student named Olive Brine. Olive Brine was a student of his in his class. In his class was this student named Olive Brine. Olive Brine was kind of tomboy-esque. She was smart, but a little depressed and lonely. And I just have to read to you this section specifically that Lepore gives us a little bit more insight on the relationship of Marston and Olive. Gosh. Lepore writes on page 133, quote, before meeting Professor Marston, Olive Brine had taken 3 courses in the psychology department, where she earned 3 C's. Her coursework was stronger in her major, English, where she'd earned B's. In experimental psychology, Marston gave her an A. Before that, the only A she gotten was in gym class. In the spring of her senior year, she took 3 more classes with Marston: applied psychology, abnormal psychology, and a research seminar that usually was restricted to graduate students. Marston gave her 3 more A's. End quote. I already know what's going on. So nasty. So nasty. Please remember that. Marston is like 32 years at this time. It's 11 years her senior, which is not an insane age difference, but the sheer power dynamic of like giving your student better grades for either the exchange of like getting to know them, whatever, like having them work for you, like give me a break. Because during this time, Olive Brine was his lab assistant, later became, and she took him to a sorority hazing so he could further his research on the difference of emotionality between women and men. Huh? Olive, Panhell Association will find you, Olive. They're gonna find you, Olive. They're gonna find you, and then they're gonna find you, Olive. Jesus Christ, taking not only... You're gonna get put on suspension. What is this? I have never ever heard someone, especially a professor, being brought to a student ritual. What? Oh. Anyway. Olive Brine was an Alpha O girl. She was a part of the Alpha Omicron Pi of Tufts University. I'm outraged, and probably so was Panhell. Anyway, Marston was interested in the psychological difference, obviously, like I said, between men and women, so Brine took him to a freshman pledge. And for those not affiliated or familiar with Greek culture in any sense, basically you have rush process. You are interviewed, and then you receive a bid for a house or an organization. You are then a pledge of that organization once you receive the bid, and you have to do various things with the members and stuff like that of the house and the line that you are included in before you are officially inducted into the house or the organization. It's as arbitrary as it sounds, I absolutely promise you. The process of this for my co-ed fraternity was just like team building activities and like game nights. But, you know, I bet you have heard of more intense processes for pledges. In this case, the Alpha O girls were making the freshman class act like babies in a weird humiliation ritual. Stick with me. Marston says himself, quote, the freshman girls were led into a dark corridor where their eyes were blindfolded and their arms were bound behind them, end quote. Something else he says is that, quote, then the freshmen were taken into a room where juniors and seniors compelled them to do various tasks while sophomores hit them with long sticks, end quote. My whole thing with this, before we go any further, I'm not supporting weird hazing tactics because, like, that's what this is, like a weird peer pressure hazing tactic. But, like, Marston, you had no business being there. You had no business being there. You are not a sister. Oh my God. The whole point of a hazing ritual, unfortunately, is to create like a bond with these people. And it's something that like you're going to go through with your line, and then maybe you will do it again to another line because you understand how humiliation can bond and whatever, and it's as arbitrary as it sounds. Weird, very cyclical nature of torture. But there is a difference in a group of girls participating in something, in their own ritualistic activities, in privacy, versus a professor being there. A professor of the university, mind you. Could you imagine? Genuinely think about it. Could you imagine, even if you weren't in Greek life, imagine being at like a house party in college and your professor is there, or a professor from another department, another school is there. Get out and go home. Like, such a breach of professionality, of everything, of everything. Ah! But after that is all said and done, a report from Marston himself that he published and shared with the world reads, oh, dear God. Quote, nearly all the sophomores reported an excited pleasantness of captivation emotion throughout the party, he reported. Quote, the pleasantness of their captivation responses appeared to increase when they were obliged to overcome rebellious freshmen physically or induce them by repeated commands and added punishments to perform the actions from which the captive girls strove to escape, end quote, which basically just talks more about kind of the satisfaction the older girls would get doing this to the younger girls. Like, stuff and a process that could have been explained by Olive Brine to Marston. It's one of those things that, looking in the hindsight of this situation, why couldn't you just sit down with this man that you already are like having kind of like tit for tat like relations with? The process of what you've already been through. Why does he have to be there? Why did he have to be there? Also, like, this whole experiment is, like, kind of, like, flawed to me and rubs me the wrong way because I feel like it kind of ignored the social pressure and the reasoning that these girls might do these things, especially, like, when you think about sororities and the social influence and the money tied to it. There are a lot of reasons for why these girls would receive this torture or enact this torture that's not just, like, satisfaction. Anyway, if you want to read the rest of that, if you want to read that, for whatever reason, the findings were published as quote, studies of emotion reported by sophomores and upper class girls during their annual punishment of the freshman girls were made by Miss Olive Brine and myself during the academic year 1925 to 1926, end quote. Cool. Anyway, so not only did Marston witness this, but Marston wrote about it in a Wonder Woman comic, specifically this hazing ritual that he witnessed. Let me explain. Okay, so now that we're all familiar with what hazing is, in a way, maybe more familiar than we want to be, issue 42 of the Sensation Comics specifically talks about a hazing ritual that the Holliday girls do to new members. In the beginning, there is a very lighthearted joke of like an initiate a pledge wasn't seen with their bottle out on campus that they usually should have. And that just made me laugh because that's one of the more like mundane, like, yeah, have this like object or have this around all day, like when you go to classes or something like that. But then we cut to this punishment that Ida Candy gives 3 girls. She punishes these triplets because they didn't have like their name tags on, and professors were like weren't able to tell them apart, so Ida Candy punishes them, takes it upon herself actually to punishes them, and the punishment is sending these girls to a ghost house. Like, ooh, spooky, scary, ooh. The next page is when things get strange, because the Holiday girls are all ready. They have paddles ready to spank the girls, like, if need be, and they're just posed, ready, waiting to use it. Like, one of the triplets says she doesn't mind the spanking, but she doesn't want to go into the ghost house, which, okay, girl. What? The setup is that the girls would go in and the Holiday girls would jump out and scare them, be dressed as ghosts, and be like, oh, boo. And what ends up happening instead is, as one of the girls is scared, she jumps out of the window and is kidnapped. Kidnappings were rampant in the golden age of comics. Don't let anybody fool you on that note, actually. Ada calls Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is like, Wonder Woman tears her a new one for doing this to these girls. She says, and I quote, "I'm ashamed of you girls, frightening those poor kids like that. You should know from psychology that fear drives people into the very dangers they dread. It made those girls run away from their fears right into real danger," end quote. Which I always find funny when Golden Age Wonder Woman is just like a mouthpiece for Marston. Please. You should know from psychology. I mean, honestly, yeah, she should know. She is a college student. What's Ada Candy's major, do you think? She probably says that at some point, but I'm going to headcanon her as economics. Actually, yeah, Ida Candy, economics major. Quote me on that. Wonder Woman discovers the plot, does her badassery and all that, but at the end, which is really what I want to focus on, she says to Ida, "You deserve a spanking just the same. Don't ever frighten your initiates again." I think it's fascinating that William, if like we want to speculate based on the dialogue, denounces hazing and recognizes the harm it can do to impressionable brains, and yet he got this conclusion, of course, not by being told about like the harm and abuse that can happen to sorority initiates, but by sitting in on the hazing ceremony himself. I just want you to imagine right now being an 18-year-old girl in college. Young, hot, sexy, turned. You want to join a sisterhood. You want to shape these next 4 years of your life. Make your college experience something well-rounded, something new, something fresh. And in the midst of that humiliation ritual, while you are almost becoming a sister, while you were moments away from becoming a true sister of the sorority, you see your psychology professor in the corner. And then years later, he's going to write about this into his comic book. Is that not asinine? It's interesting, but it's a little like, Jesus Christ, Marston. I don't know. If you want to read issue 42 for yourself, it's an interesting story, but I still just can't get over the whole hazing ritual, sorority girl of it all, because it just kind of feels so out of place to me for Diana to be like, now, do not hit your sorority pledges. If you like this video, subscribe, like, support me on Ko-fi. I'm tired. William Marston tires me out. I want to stop thinking about him right now, actually, if I could. Clearly can't. So